In the previous lesson, we saw what's going on with our models behind the scenes. So, to recap, our entities talk to resource models, our resource models talk to the database adapter, and through the database adapter, we are able to communicate with the database and perform create, read, update, and delete operations. So, let's see that in action. The workflow is the same for all models, and for this lesson, I thought about dealing with product model. You instantiate the model using factory method. So product equals mage : get model, and you pass catalog/product, and then call load method passing the ID of the product. This will return a product instance with the ID of 46. I'll var dump product so we can see what we get exactly. Alright, there's a lot of properties here. Let's see. This data array seems the most human readable. We see meaningful pieces of information like product type, product school, name, manufacturers, but how do we get only one particular value? For example, this meta title. In that case, we take advantage of getData function and pass the key we want to get, which is meta title in this case. Let's try this. Cool. But what's even better is Magento allows you to ask for something the way you'd ask for it in plain English. So instead of getData, you can simply call getMetaTitle and you'll get the exact same output. Really cool, right? And you know what? This getMetaTitle is not defined anywhere in the system. Let me prove that to you. This is product model, and I'll search for that function, but nope, it's not here. And there's no chance for such a concrete method as this one is to be defined in mage catalog model abstract class, which provides kind of abstracted methods. Feel free to open and explore this class on your own, because we won't do it here together. Instead, I'd like to give you an explanation. This works because Magento is using PHP magic method. When you call some undefined method on an object, before PHP throws a fatal error, it will look if _call method is defined, and it will find it in VarionObject class because product model extends from VarionObject like most other models and blocks that work with data. Let's see the _call method in VarionObject because I found it very interesting and understandable. So what do we have here? It strips the first three letters from function name and checks if there's a match with get, set, ans, or has. The most frequently used are those two, get and set. So our getMetaTitle will obviously end up here. This method will be called and it accepts everything after get in method name as an argument, which is gonna be meta-title. And what it does is it converts camel case to underscores. For example, if some camel case value gets into the function, it will be converted to some camel case value with underscores, and the end result will be passed to getData method. That's why getData with meta-title passed as an argument and getMetaTitle function had the exact same effect. You can play with this a little more. You can call, for example, product getDescription or product getPrice, and behind the scenes it will call getData and pass the relevant argument. Description in the case of getDescription and price in the case of getPrice method call. Alright, this is how we get data. Now we'll see how to set and save some data. So we'll still be working with the same product, and to update meta title we simply say product set data, and the first argument will be the attribute we are setting, which is meta title. And as the second argument, we specify a new value for this attribute. But as you guess, the same thing can be done with shorter version using magic methods. So, product set meta title. And now we only need a new value for this attribute as an argument. I'll leave this getMetaTitle and copy it once right below my setter to see if it works. And let me actually echo br tag to make it nice and more visible. This seems to be working. This is the old value and this is new updated value. But watch what happens when I reload the page. Maybe you expected to see update on both lines, because if we have previously updated it, there's no reason why we should expect the original value here. But that's not actually happening because we didn't call the save method after we had set the value on object. So these get and set methods works on object level. They update properties only without updating the value in the database unless we call save method. Now when we refresh, the request will be longer because Magento first reads the value, which is the old one, then it updates it in the database, and here it is. We still see both versions, but now I'll remove everything except the first line, so I leave only product, get meta title, and go back to browser to refresh the page once again. You can see that we indeed get the updated version. So we saw how we read and update data in the database, and to complete CRUD operations, we'll see how to delete data. Can you guess the function name? It's very intuitive, you just need to call delete method on product object, and in this case, there's no need to call save. So just product and delete. But if you try this, it won't work, because Magento doesn't allow you to perform deletion from the front-end area of the site, which is one more security check, but you can trick it by passing admin to the app method as argument. This is sort of a hack, so please do a little research on Google when you need to perform product deletion from non-admin areas. In my experience, situations like this will be very rare. Alright, we see blank page, but we can test if deletion was successful by trying to echo the name of the product. Actually, I'll var dump whatever we get from this. And sure enough, it's null because the product doesn't exist in the database. Alright, this is how we do CRUD on single models, relying on Magento ORM, which is absolutely useful. But sometimes we want to grab a collection of models, and in those cases we can take advantage of the third model type in Magento called collection. It's very easy to use. For example, if we want to print all of our products' names, we can simply call getCollection on product object, which should return every object of that type in the system. And because collections implement PHP iterator aggregate interface, we can use them in for each loops like we do with regular arrays like this. So for each products as product, echo product get name. So inside of the loop, we can work with products one by one and simply echo their name. This looks easy enough, but surprisingly, this will not work as you expect. Product get name will be null, so it's better to remove this echo and add var dump. Let's try this. If I were you, I'd be very surprised with this, because it looks so natural that you might think it's a bug or something like that, but no. The reason why this doesn't return the name is because product name is actually not the static attribute for EAV model. By default, collections don't return full objects for EAV entities, but only static attributes, and by static attributes I assume those in the base or entity table, which is catalog, product, entity for product model. All other attributes are stored in a couple of different tables, and they are connected with entities in this table by referencing entity ID. That's the EAV model we were talking about in the previous lesson. So, product name is not a single value. It depends on the store view, which means that you can have one name for English store, the other for German, French, and so on. And because it depends on other factors like store view, it's not static or scopeless attribute. EAV models can have as many scopeless attributes as you want, and that's why Magento doesn't load them all. Can you imagine how expensive it would be to perform all of the joins for collections of, let's say 10,000 products for example? So this is the way how Magento ensures to load only the most important data, and on your request it will load other attributes and perform all necessary joins. So before demonstrating how can you tell the system to load the name, I just want to show you that only data in this table really gets instantiated with object by default. I'll var dump product and immediately after break the loop, so that we get only the first instance. We can see that the data matches the table columns, and that's the attributes we can get by default. Of course, by calling magical get methods or by using getData with corresponding argument. Alright, I want to cover two handy functions which are always used. To get the product name, we would only call add_attribute to select and pass the attribute code that you want Magento to load from the database. By doing this, you specifically say, "Hey Magento, you know what? I really need the name, so please do what you need to do and make it available for me." You don't really need to inspect where the name is stored and then deal with the necessary joins. Magento is flexible and smart enough, and it will do it internally for you. Of course, you can pass as many attributes as you want, and in that case, you either call multiple times like this, or I personally prefer passing an array with attribute codes that I need, for example. Of course, if you want to get all of the attributes, you pass an asterisk, like you regularly do in your plain SQL. Asterisk means select all from products, but before doing this, double check if you really need all product data. Always keep your code optimized when possible. And the next cool handy function is add_field_to_filter, which we use to filter results by some criteria. If we want to get products cheaper than $50, we can call add_field_to_filter, then specify the attribute by which we are filtering, and as a second argument, we pass an array with the syntax less than 50. As opposite to add_field_to_filter with greater than 50, which will return only products with greater price. Alan Storm has covered a lot of these filters, so you can take a look at this page. All of them are self-explanatory, so I leave you to play with them. I think we are done with models, at least with their basics. In the next chapter, we'll start dealing with request routing and finally leave test PHP and start working with real pages in Magento. I hope you'll find it interesting.